Mr. Thomas, according to the Alliance's investigation, you and Mr. Nathan are currently the only S-class alpha and omega pair with a 100% pheromone compatibility rate. For the sake of the Alliance's fertility program, you are both hereby issued a mandatory marriage order. Please sign immediately. The words of the Alliance Committee still echoed in my mind. Because of my unusually late secondary gender differentiation, I'd always assumed I was a beta. But one sudden and intense heat proved otherwise. I was classified as a rare S-class omega. The very next day, the Alliance came knocking on my door. Then my mind jumped to that day at the registry office. Nathan frowned and said to me, "There's no love between us, so I won't touch you. After 5 years, if there's no child, we can apply to annul the marriage." Now, there were only 3 months left before those 5 years were up. Outside the car window, sunlight shimmered across the sea. I stared at it until I almost lost myself in the glow of the setting sun. Then, someone tugged gently at my collar from behind my neck. Startled, I turned my head. Nathan was sitting on the other side of the back seat, frowning slightly. "Your pheromones." I quickly covered the back of my neck. "Sorry." I zoned out. He pulled his hand back, turned toward the window, his posture stiff. "It's fine. Just be careful next time." I pressed my lips together and looked away too. Neither of us spoke again until the car stopped in front of the banquet hall. When the car stopped, Nathan got out first, then opened my door and extended his hand to me. That was always how we were. In public, the picture-perfect couple, pretending to be affectionate and close. I put on a polite smile and placed my hand in his, too. The banquet hall was grand and glittering. We had barely entered when a handsome alpha walked up to us with a teasing grin. "Surprised you actually brought him out this time." Nathan shot him a cold glance. "Joseph, no one asked you to talk." I said nothing, keeping a calm smile. Nathan rarely took me to public events. Only when one of the Alliance's 4 great families hosted a joint banquet, where attendance with one spouse was mandatory, did I appear beside him. To outsiders, it looked like he was protective and possessive, keeping me away from public attention. This man, Joseph, probably thought the same. As they spoke, another man walked up. He had sharp features, a stud in his ear, and even in a tailored suit, he looked a bit wild. "This suit's way too tight. I told you I didn't want to come," he muttered, glaring at Joseph before turning to me. His eyes lit up. "Whoa, you're an omega, right? You're gorgeous. Totally my type." The moment he said that, Nathan's pheromones flared sharply. I froze. Before I could react, Joseph spoke up. "Relax. Hunter's a beta. He can't even smell your pheromones. You're just bothering me." I turned to Joseph, surprised. He stayed calm despite being suppressed by an S-class alpha's pheromones. That could only mean he was S-class too. But he didn't look it. His expression was easygoing, approachable. Of course, looks can be deceiving. He probably thought Nathan was jealous, when in fact, Nathan was just irritated. The instinctive possessiveness left by a temporary mark. "It's suffocating in here," Hunter suddenly said, then looked at me. "You feeling stuffy too? Want to get some air?" I glanced instinctively at Nathan. He hesitated, then said coldly, "Do as you like." Joseph didn't notice the tension between us. He just leaned toward Hunter and whispered, "Be careful, don't wander too far." I let out a quiet, self-mocking laugh. The contrast between them only made my situation seem more pathetic. Outside, the courtyard was full of flowers, most of which I couldn't even name. Someone said the host's daughter adored them, so they filled the place with blooms. Hunter and I sat down on a bench. He was probably trying to start a conversation. "It's nice, huh?" "Yeah," I said, following his lead. "They did a good job decorating." He rubbed the back of his neck, thinking for a moment before saying, "I'm gonna be honest. You and that alpha of yours, something's off. Most alphas are crazy protective of their bonded mates." I froze, embarrassed. It only took him a few minutes to see through us. This wasn't something I ever talked about, but maybe it was the timing. With our 5th year approaching, I suddenly felt the urge to let someone know. I smiled faintly. "You're right. There's no permanent mark between us. Nathan's never touched me, so we don't have one. Every time I went into heat, he'd leave a temporary mark on my neck, then leave quickly before losing control. For an S-class omega, a temporary mark was like drinking poison to quench thirst. It only soothed the heat for a moment before making it worse. The emptiness that followed, both in body and in heart, always left me in tears. But no one ever came to comfort me. I'd never seen Nathan's red either. Each month, he disappeared for a few days and returned as if nothing happened. He never explained, and I never asked. That was how we quietly survived 4 peaceful, empty years. 3. After the banquet, Nathan started acting strange. He was restless, easily irritated, and spent more time working from home. Once, I passed by the study and overheard fragments of an argument. It sounded like he was on the phone. "Joseph, where's my medication? Have you lost your mind? You've been supplying me for 4 years, and now you're telling me you're out? Then what am I supposed to do during my rut?" I didn't stay to listen. I went straight back to my room. Whatever he was talking about, I didn't want to know, because the more I understood, the more I'd hope, and hope only led to pain. Still, a message from Hunter later that night made me pause. "Don't worry, man, I've got you." I didn't understand what he meant. The past few days, whenever I tried to go out, Nathan would stand at the top of the stairs, staring at me like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Finally, I couldn't take the silence anymore and spoke first. "Sir, is something wrong?" He pressed his lips together. "Where are you going?" "School," I said honestly. "I've got 2 classes today. Can't you skip them?" he asked suddenly. I froze for a second, hesitating. "No, without a valid reason, it's considered a teaching violation." "Why? Is there something you need?" He blinked, as if realizing what he'd said, then frowned. "No, nothing. Forget it. Pretend you didn't hear that." He turned and went back into the study. The door slammed shut behind him. I stood there for a while, thinking. Then I left. After all, in these 4 years, Nathan had never done anything that needed my concern. This time probably wasn't any different, or so I told myself. 4. I thought I'd be home right after my 2 classes today, but the department suddenly called an emergency meeting. By the time all the small stuff wrapped up and I finally got home, it was already 9. My phone had died hours ago. The house was strangely quiet. All the lights were off, and even the butler, who usually greeted me at the door, was nowhere to be seen. Something definitely felt off. I opened the front door slowly, trying to figure out what was going on. And suddenly, a wave of pheromones slammed into me, thick and suffocating. The next second, someone grabbed my wrist and yanked me inside. Hot breath brushed against the back of my neck, and the sharp scrape of teeth near my gland made me shudder hard. My instincts recognized him before my brain did. Nathan. My own pheromones started spilling out, pulled by his. Not good. My body was already reacting, heat curling up my spine. "Sir," I pushed at his chest, forcing out words through the haze. "Nathan, snap out of it." My hand fumbled for the switch on the wall. Click. The room flooded with blinding white light. Nathan froze with a low groan. That's when I saw his face. Flushed red, his eyes wet with tears. What's going on?" I whispered. "It hurts," he choked, voice trembling. Then tears began to fall, one after another. He wasn't fully in control, his eyes were dazed, unfocused. "My Omega. I want my Omega. Why didn't you come home? There were strangers everywhere. I couldn't find you. Where did you go?" I stared at him, stunned. This wasn't the calm, distant Nathan I knew. A single word formed in my mind, rut. But it was rare for an alpha's rut to get this bad, to the point of completely losing control. "Sir, are you in rut?" I asked carefully. Nathan's pheromones filled every inch of the room. If I weren't S-class, I'd probably already be on my knees, begging for him to touch me. But our 100% compatibility wasn't helping, it was making it worse. I could feel my own mind slipping, melting into the haze. I forced out a small amount of calming pheromones, trying to soothe him. Keeping my voice steady, I said, "Sir, stay here, okay? Something's wrong. I'll go find a doctor, all right?" He suddenly looked like a terrified child about to be abandoned. He took a shaky step toward me, then wrapped his arms around me and sobbed. "It hurts. I can't take it. Why do you want to leave me? Where are you going? Aren't you my Omega?" With every wave of emotion, his pheromones grew thicker, heavier. My knees nearly buckled. "All right, I'm not leaving. I'll just make a call, okay?" I said, trying to calm him down. It took everything I had to drag him to the sofa. Then I grabbed the landline and dialed my friend. "Hello, Charlie, something's wrong. Nathan, he's in rut, but it's not normal." I tried to explain everything as clearly as I could through the fog in my head. Charlie was silent for a moment, then spoke in an unusually serious tone. "Thomas, yeah, it's a rut, but I'm guessing he's been using heavy suppressants for a long time. If he suddenly stopped, all that repressed pheromone energy would crash back, hard. That's why he's lost control. He's running purely on instinct. And during this kind of rebound rut, he'll completely submit to his mate. The level of submission depends on your pheromone match. With you two being 100%, he'd literally die if you told him to. So listen carefully, tell him to stay where he is and leave immediately. Don't try to help him. If you go into heat too, you'll both lose control. When it's over, he won't remember any of it. Just act like it never happened." Before I could respond, Nathan's grip on my hand tightened painfully. He'd clearly hurt something. Don't go," he whispered, voice breaking. Please don't go. And for a second, it felt like déjà vu, that same desperate plea I'd made in every heat cycle. Back then, I'd silently begged him not to leave me, too afraid to let the words out. But he always did, every single time. I understand, I said quietly into the phone. I'll handle it. I hung up, then turned to Nathan and asked softly, Sir, why did you take those suppressants before? He blinked, eyes unfocused, tears still falling. I gave a bitter smile. Pheromones are such cruel things, aren't they? I murmured. You don't even like me, but your body still craves me like this. A lonely kind of heat bloomed in my chest. Going through heat alone is miserable, I said quietly. Really, miserable. Nathan shouldn't have been able to understand me in his state, but for some reason, he just cried harder, sobbing like it hurt to breathe. I wiped his tears away and whispered, before I completely lost control, let's go back to the bedroom. 5. The following week blurred into chaos. Nathan barely let go of me, and I barely had a moment of full consciousness. I only remember 2 clear times. Once when I took sick leave under accompanying a partner during RUT, and another when I used Nathan's phone to text his secretary. The secretary didn't even ask questions. Clearly, this wasn't the first time. Each time I stopped paying attention to him for even a few minutes, Nathan broke down crying again. Tears, trembling, clinging, like a child afraid of being left alone. On the 7th morning, it finally ended. Nathan was still asleep when I woke up, every muscle in my body aching. As my mind cleared, reality hit me, what I'd done. Nathan probably wouldn't thank me for helping him through it. From his perspective, this forced marriage had only 3 months left, and now everything was a mess. He'd think I took advantage of him. The back of my neck was still tingling. I didn't have to check, I knew Nathan had marked me. Charlie was right, the backlash would leave him out cold for at least 2 days. I got up quietly, forcing my sore body to move. I cleaned myself up, tidied the house, opened all the windows to air it out. When I was done, it almost looked like nothing had happened. That was the story I decided to stick to. Nathan went into RUT, I left to get help, and he stayed home alone for a week. Just before heading out, the craving for his pheromones hit me again, sharp and fierce. But I swallowed it down, forcing myself to stay steady. After all, self-control was the one thing I'd always been good at. 6. When I got to Charlie's house, I sniffled and pressed the doorbell. It was already autumn, the air had turned cold. I'd left in such a hurry that I just threw on a random coat and ran out. I didn't even dare to bet on whether Nathan would actually stay asleep for 2 days. After a moment, the door opened. Charlie stood there, hair a mess, blinking sleepily. When he saw me, he froze. What are you doing here? He blinked again, suddenly alert, and stepped aside. Get in. Where the hell have you been? I couldn't reach you at all. I gave him a weak smile and stepped inside. It's a long story. The door clicked shut behind me. Then, holy, Thomas! Charlie's voice exploded. He grabbed my arm and spun me around. What the hell is this? He jabbed a finger toward my neck. Tell me, what the hell is this? I took a breath and said quietly, you're a doctor. You really need me to tell you. It's a mark. He inhaled sharply. Don't tell me it's permanent. I stayed silent. That was all the answer he needed. You said you'd handle it. You said. I did handle it, I said softly. He swore under his breath, pacing. So what now? Why are you here? I just need somewhere to hide for 3 months, I murmured after a pause. You said he wouldn't remember. He usually doesn't care about me anyway. By then, he'll probably file for divorce himself. Charlie's voice rose. And what if he does remember? Then we'll deal with it, I said tiredly. I just want to sleep. I hadn't really slept in days. My mind was foggy, barely holding together. Charlie looked like he wanted to argue, but when his eyes landed on the bruised marks on my neck, he just sighed. Fine. Guest room's still yours. Go crash before you fall over. I gave him a faint smile, walked to the guest room like I'd done 100 times before, and fell face first into the bed. Charlie stayed in the living room, pacing and muttering under his breath. When I woke again, sunlight was pouring through the curtains. It was already afternoon. My body still felt heavy. I dragged myself out and found Charlie sitting on the couch, arms folded, looking deadly serious. Sit. We need to talk, he said flatly. I sat down across from him, already bracing myself. He asked coldly, did he force you? I hesitated. No. I agreed to it. Charlie stared at me for a long moment, breathing hard. Why would you do that for him? Did he help you during your heat? No? Then why help him? Why not just leave him to it? I looked away. Because I know what that kind of pain feels like. I couldn't just ignore it. I tried to keep my tone calm. He won't remember anyway. In 3 months, we'll be divorced. It'll all be over. Charlie rubbed his forehead. Thomas, it's not that simple. He sighed heavily. Sure, if an alpha doesn't mark anyone, they can have as many omegas as they want. But you, he completely marked you. That means, he trailed off, then said it anyway. It means he, tied with you, during the mark. My breath caught. That detail, something I should have realized long ago, suddenly crashed into my foggy mind. Charlie's voice grew grim. You know how strong your compatibility is. If you didn't take precautions, the odds of not getting pregnant are almost zero. And if you are pregnant, the alliance will never approve your divorce. His words hit me like thunder. Precautions. Did Nathan and I use any? During those wild, uncontrollable nights, had we done anything? Of course not. Charlie saw my face turn pale and sighed again. Pack up. We're going to my private clinic. No registration needed. Though honestly, he muttered, I can already guess the result. 7. Charlie sighed for the third time as he stared at the report in his hands. Thomas, he said slowly, if Nathan ever finds out about this baby, he's as good as dead. So either you end it, or you run. Your choice. I couldn't even think. The report was clear. My hormone levels were far too high to deny it. What should I do? I whispered. Charlie's voice was steady. My advice? End it. End it. The moment that thought entered my mind, pain shot through my glands, sharp and nauseating. I almost threw up. What's happening to me? Charlie's tone softened. It's your omega instinct. The drive to protect your child. It overrides everything. Then, after a pause, he added, but if you really want to keep the baby, you'll need Nathan's pheromones to stabilize it. Otherwise, you'll have to erase the permanent mark and find another alpha donor. I froze, hand moving to my still flat stomach. There was a long silence. Then I heard my own voice, quiet but certain. Erase the mark. Charlie pressed his lips together. It'll hurt more than you think. It's fine, I said with a faint smile. I can handle pain. He looked at me for a long time before lowering his gaze. Get ready for surgery. Charlie never lied. It didn't just hurt more than I thought. It was agony, worse than every wound I'd ever had, all at once. The physical pain was one thing, but the emotional crash, the emptiness, was unbearable. The sense of connection, of being whole, was ripped away. It felt like part of my soul had been torn out. I couldn't stop crying, couldn't stop screaming. The only thought that echoed in my head was, why did they have to take my mark? What did I do wrong? Then, finally, nothing, just silence. 8. You're awake. I blinked my dry eyes open and looked at Charlie. It's done, he said simply. For a moment, I didn't understand. Then it hit me. The mark was gone. I sat up abruptly, swallowed by the hollow ache spreading through my chest. My hand reached for my neck, only to touch a rough scab. Charlie stopped me gently. Don't, he murmured. It's over. Stop thinking about it. Then he hesitated before adding, I have a friend in the East District, an alpha. He's got some influence there. You can stay with him for a while. He'll take care of you. Before I could answer, the door clicked open. A bright voice said cheerfully, well, hello there. The newcomer was hard to miss. Pale skin, slick hair, sunglasses perched on his head, and a loud floral shirt that screamed confidence. Charlie groaned. Asher, what the hell are you wearing again? What? This is fashion. Asher shot back, waving his hand dramatically. Anyway, where's the person I'm supposed to pick up? His gaze landed on me, and his grin widened. Well, you're easy on the eyes. High rank, I bet. Same rank as you, Charlie said coldly. He's a friend, just got hurt. Take him in for a while. Sure, Asher drawled, stretching the word. Only because I owe you, Doc. Come on, let's go. I hesitated, frowning slightly. Charlie patted my shoulder, reassuring. It's fine. I trust him. The East District's far, Nathan won't find you there. He handed me a phone. My spare. Call if you need anything. I nodded, took it, and followed Asher out. His car was a bright red convertible that suited his personality perfectly, flashy and loud. He chatted non-stop during the drive, maybe trying to lighten the heavy silence around me. After nearly 10 hours on the road, we finally arrived at a villa tucked away on the outskirts. Here we are, he said with a grin. Everything you need's inside. Just tell me if you need anything else. Asher pushed open the door, and I froze. At the top of the staircase stood a tall young man, expression icy. His coldness wasn't like Nathan's distant indifference. It was sharp, unapproachable, like a snow-covered peak. You brought an Omega home? He asked flatly. Asher blinked, waving his hands. No, it's not what you think. He's Charlie's friend. He's just staying here for a bit. He turned back to me. Thomas, right? This is my brother, Milo. He's a beta. The air felt tight, tense. I quickly straightened and said politely, hello. I had some issues with my partner. Mr. Asher kindly agreed to let me stay for a while. Milo's gaze softened just a little before he turned and went upstairs. Asher leaned toward me and whispered, "He hates when I bring people home." I gave him a small smile. "It's fine. I understand." 9. Life at Asher's house was surprisingly peaceful. Asher was chaos. He stayed up late, slept through the mornings, but Milo was the complete opposite. Calm, disciplined, quietly brilliant. He was already part of a major pharmaceutical company's R&D team, working on experimental drugs. A beta achieving that much, it honestly impressed me. Every day at noon, Asher would help regulate my pheromones, easing the symptoms of my pregnancy. Things went smoothly, until the 3rd month. That day, his pheromones barely worked. I felt sick, so sick I could barely breathe, like death was knocking at my door. I called Charlie. He sounded rushed. "It's normal. You're entering a critical stage. Asher isn't the baby's father, his pheromones won't help much. Let him bite your gland lightly and inject a small dose. That should stabilize you." Asher and I just stared at each other. He glanced at my pale face, hesitated, then sighed dramatically. "Fine, come here. You look like a ghost. This is too creepy. Just one bite, yeah." Before I could even protest, he tugged my collar down and leaned in. The faint sting of teeth meeting skin made me flinch. My mind flashed back to that night, with Nathan, and I trembled violently. The next second, Asher was yanked back. Milo stood there, eyes dark, cold fury etched into every line of his face. Without a word, he dragged Asher upstairs like he weighed nothing, slamming the door behind them. Not good, definitely not good. When I finally regained my senses, my body felt a little better, but Asher and Milo still hadn't come back down. I sighed, grabbed my keys, and decided to go out. Some medicine might help. At the pharmacy, I tried to organize my thoughts. There was something strange about the way Milo looked at Asher. It wasn't the usual brotherly protectiveness. And the hostility he showed toward me today, definitely not normal. Maybe it was time to leave before things got complicated. Besides, the 3 months were up. Nathan should have filed for automatic divorce by now. I could probably go back to the West District. The cashier, a young woman, kept glancing at me nervously as she scanned my medication. When I smiled politely, she startled, then gathered her courage. "Sir," she said softly, "last time you came in, I noticed the edges of your suppressant patch were lifting, and I saw the mark removal scar on your neck. That's illegal, you know." She took a breath, her voice trembling slightly. "And, since you're pregnant and buying pheromone stabilizers alone, I have to ask, were you sexually assaulted?" I froze, completely thrown off. Before I could respond, she gripped my hand. "Don't be afraid," she said quickly. "I used your medical ID to check your file. I already reported your partner to the Alliance yesterday. They'll make sure he faces justice." My mind went blank. What was she talking about? Reported Nathan, but how did she even find his name? The marriage should have been dissolved automatically once the 5-year mark passed and he filed the paperwork. Why was he still listed as my spouse? Something was very, very wrong. I yanked my hand free, grabbed the bag of medicine and turned to leave. But before I could take a step, a strong hand slammed mine down against the counter. The grip was firm, familiar, and on that hand's ring finger gleamed the unmistakable Alliance marriage band. My breath caught. The faint scent that surrounded me was achingly familiar, sharp, warm, and inescapable. My glands flared, burning, itching, trembling, and then I heard his voice, low and close to my ear. "Well," Nathan whispered, "long time no see." 10. I forced a smile, trying to look calm as I said, "Mr. Nathan, long time no see. How have you been?" He repeated the last 2 words slowly, as if tasting them. "How have I been?" My husband had been missing for 3 months. No one could find him anywhere, until I finally heard he'd been hiding in a small pharmacy all the way in the East District. "So, tell me, how do you think I've been?" He stared at me, his pheromones heavy in the air, thick with anger and frustration. Behind him, the young clerk had already ducked behind the counter, too scared to move. Then, for no reason I could understand, a sharp pain twisted through my abdomen. My vision blurred, and I blacked out. "What the hell did you just say?" That was the first thing I heard when I came to. Nathan's voice, sharp and furious. Then Joseph's calm one followed. I said, "He's pregnant. You just released a massive wave of pheromones. You triggered a shock response." Joseph's voice dropped. "And that mark on the back of his neck? You don't need me to spell it out. He's been permanently marked." He sighed. "All that effort, wasted." When I finally opened my eyes, Nathan noticed immediately. He turned toward me, voice low. "You're awake." Joseph raised a brow, smirking. "I'll leave you two alone." The door closed behind him, and I finally had time to look around. It was our house, the one Nathan and I used to share. Nathan stood by the bed for a long time before asking, his throat dry. Who is it? I blinked. What? The one who marked you, he said flatly. The father of the child. Who is it? I met his gaze. And if you find out, what will you do? Kill him, he said without hesitation. I looked away, ignoring the question. It's been 5 years. Why didn't you file for divorce? He froze. On our wedding day, I reminded him quietly, you said if we didn't have a child within 5 years, we'd end it. He said nothing. After a while, he murmured, then, let's just say this child is mine. I stared at him, dumbfounded. What? I'll handle the alliance, he said. You know they won't allow an Omega to terminate a pregnancy, so you'll give birth, and I'll take the child as my own. He didn't even look back at me before walking out, leaving me speechless on the bed. 11. Joseph hadn't left. He was leaning casually against the wall outside. Nathan glared at him. Will my pheromones affect the baby? Joseph raised an eyebrow. So, you're really going to raise someone else's kid? Nathan shot him a cold look. If you dare say a word about this. Joseph chuckled. Funny, weren't you the one who swore you'd never end up like your father? Nathan fell silent. His parents had been victims of the old system, forced into marriage for population stability. His mother was a rare S-rank Omega, chosen purely by pheromone compatibility, paired with a B-rank Alpha, his father. They were ordered to complete a permanent bond on the spot, binding their lives together forever. The world thought his father had gotten lucky. A low-ranked Alpha matched with an S-rank Omega, what a dream. No one knew his father had actually fallen hopelessly in love at first sight. But his mother hated him, hated her fate, hated the son she'd been forced to bear. She'd been engineered, a test subject in the early days of Omega research, and her mind never fully recovered. She believed the alliance had ruined her. She would manipulate her husband with pheromones, drive him to extremes, desperate to make him agree to a divorce. Nathan often saw his father's bruises, yet the man would still smile at him and say, don't blame your mother. Giving birth to you hurt her more than anything. And once, he'd winked at little Nathan and whispered, don't tell her, but your old man's actually pretty immune to pheromones. When Nathan was 12, his father died in a car accident, on a late-night drive to buy flowers after one of his mother's breakdowns. A year later, his mother followed him, her mind finally giving out. After that, Nathan learned one thing, love was foolish. His parents were foolish. The whole system, alphas, omegas, pheromones, was rotten. He swore he'd never repeat their mistakes. And yet, here he was. The night of their marriage, he'd met an S-rank Omega with a gentle face and a quiet, fragile air. No wonder there'd been no moon that night, because the moon had come down to stand before him. It must have been the pheromones, he told himself. Just a reaction. He'd divorce soon anyway. But years passed. He kept his distance, pretended not to care, until the day that Omega disappeared. And only then did he realize, he'd never once mentioned divorce again. He was his father's son after all, hopelessly, stupidly in love. 12. In the clinic, Joseph's gaze on me was strange, amused, almost teasing. What are you trying to say? I asked, exasperated. Nathan had been acting weird lately. He barely spoke, but he wouldn't leave my side for a moment. No matter how many times I asked why he didn't want a divorce, he just handed me another cup of herbal medicine. I used to think Nathan was easy to read. Now I couldn't read him at all. Joseph gave me a sly smile. I sent him out for a reason. Don't you have something you want to tell me? I frowned. What do you mean? When I didn't respond, he sighed dramatically and lowered his voice. Fine, I'll say it. I did a bit of digging on you. My heart skipped. You didn't. You grew up in an orphanage, he said lightly. Funny thing, it's the same one Nathan donated a fortune to when he was a kid. Small world, huh? I clenched my fists, forcing a calm smile. So what? I didn't steal or lie. Growing up in an orphanage isn't exactly headline news. Joseph waved a finger. Ah, but you're missing the point. You know what I study? Pheromone compatibility. He leaned closer, eyes gleaming. And I've made some fascinating progress lately. A bad feeling hit me. Compatibility isn't fixed at birth, he said. Before someone differentiates, it's shaped by their subconscious, by who they want to connect with. Once they differentiate, it becomes permanent. He paused for effect. And yours with Nathan? Off the charts. Ridiculously high. I knew what was coming, but couldn't stop it. He said it anyway, so casually it made my stomach drop. You must have liked Nathan long before you even differentiated, huh? The silence that followed was deafening. Joseph looked so sure of himself that arguing was pointless. What are you trying to say? I asked quietly. That I should divorce him, take the baby and disappear? He blinked. Why would I say that? What? I'm just saying, you two are so bad at talking, it's painful to watch. Please, go sort yourselves out somewhere else, preferably a public hospital. My clinic's threshold is going to wear out from all your drama. Then he smirked. By the way, my consultation fee's outrageous. Nathan's never paid it once. I stared at him, speechless. What the hell was happening? And seriously, what did he mean by calling us both mute? 13. When I got into the car, Nathan followed right after me. He didn't say a word, just sat there quietly, flipping through the medical reports one by one. I glanced at him and, for some reason, a phrase popped into my head, the silent husband. Nathan, there's something I need to tell you, I finally said. He froze for a second, then set the papers down and looked at me. Go ahead. You wanted to know who the father of the child is, right? I met his eyes. Nathan's hand tightened slightly into a fist, then relaxed again. Yeah, tell me. I pointed with my finger. He frowned, following my gesture toward the car window. There were only a few pedestrians outside. He looked for a couple of seconds, then turned back to me. Which one? I took a deep breath, then pointed right at his chest. You. For a moment, his face went blank. You're the one who permanently marked me, I added, pausing. Before we erased it. Nathan looked completely lost. So I told him everything honestly. It happened 3 months ago, during your unstable heat cycle. Then I looked at him and said softly, and the first time I met you, it wasn't at the marriage registry. It was at the Sunshine Orphanage. You were young then, visiting with the Alliance. The orphanage didn't have much food back then. You found me fighting over leftovers in the yard and helped me win. You said you'd make sure we all had enough to eat, then gave me a small note with your name on it. After you left, someone donated a huge sum to the orphanage for meals, and the Alliance sent people to supervise. When I brought your note to show them, they told me I could have double portions. I smiled faintly at the memory. Joseph said we're both terrible at talking, I said. So, I thought I'd go first. Maybe you have something you want to say too. Nathan just stared at me and blinked slowly. Then he opened his mouth, struggling to get words out. He spoke hesitantly, like someone who hadn't opened up in years. The way he searched for words was almost pitiful. Me? He finally asked, frowning slightly. I nodded. You cried a lot that time. Maybe because you've been holding it in since you were a kid. You never really let yourself break down before. You know you were crying pretty hard during your heat, right? I teased, gently pinching his cheek. You wouldn't stop. He froze, then muttered softly, sorry. I'm sorry for how I acted that time. During my heat, you remember? I asked, surprised. He shook his head. No, but I know I should apologize. He lowered his head again, looking like a guilty puppy. I couldn't talk, and you had to wash off the mark because of me. I'm sorry. I pressed a hand over his face, trying not to laugh. This wasn't the cold, serious Nathan I knew. And with that face, it was almost unfair. 14. After we finally talked things out, I went to the Alliance's public hospital for the first time. The next day, the doorbell rang. Nathan went to open it. Outside stood an old man with graying hair, crying his heart out. Nathan, you finally have a baby. He sobbed. Back then, I saw you living all alone and asked the Alliance to find you a suitable Omega so you wouldn't end up like your parents. But years passed and still no child. Then someone reported you for abuse. I nearly had a heart attack. Nathan's face went dark. He slammed the door shut with a loud bang. Before I could react, the old man started pounding on the door again. Nathan, let your uncle see the baby. The little one deserves to meet his great uncle. I kicked Nathan lightly from my recliner. Hey, why'd you shut him out like that? Outside, the man's tone changed completely. You brat, don't forget, I'm the one who found you that husband of yours. You owe me a peek at that kid. Nathan froze mid-stir, then sighed, walked to the cupboard, grabbed a pack of old wedding candies from 5 years ago, opened the door, and tossed it out. Here, celebration candy, he said flatly, and shut the door again. I blinked. That candy's expired, you know. Are you sure that's okay? Nathan looked at me and muttered, he used to tell me to divorce you because he thought you couldn't have children. Ah, so he holds grudges. When the due date came, Nathan was more nervous than I was. He couldn't sleep, tossed and turned all night, even threw up a few times. Then, just as he'd finally fallen asleep, I went into labor. Because of complications from the earlier stress, things didn't go smoothly. Nathan stayed by my side at first, but his pheromones spiked so intensely that even the doctor's hands were shaking. They had to throw him out of the room. No idea how long it took, but when the door finally opened, the doctor's face was serious. Save my husband, Nathan said immediately. The doctor blinked. Nathan's voice grew sharp. Forget the baby, just save him. The doctor stared for a beat, then sighed. Both father and son are fine. I just needed your signature. When I finally woke up, the first thing I heard was an argument outside. The doctor's voice was exasperated. With your pheromone levels and compatibility, it's basically impossible not to conceive. Nathan shot back, then what if I have my glands removed? The doctor nearly shouted, are you insane? You can't live without glands. You want to die young? Nathan frowned. Then what do we do? Every pregnancy is too dangerous for him. The doctor tried to explain patiently. It's not every time, it was just bad luck. This one was an accident. I'm not taking that chance again, Nathan said coldly. Then remove his reproductive system, the doctor suggested reluctantly. Some omegas choose that route. There'll be side effects, but he'll recover. Nathan's voice turned icy. No, if anyone's going under the knife, it's me. The doctor threw up his hands. Then what am I supposed to do? The only guaranteed way to prevent it is. Joseph's voice cut in smoothly. Actually, I might have a solution. He walked over, waving a small vial. Experimental drug. Stops alphas from impregnating their partners. You want to be my test subject? Nathan didn't hesitate. Give it to me. When I opened my eyes, Nathan was right there, watching. He reached out, brushing my hand lightly. You're awake. I blinked, still groggy. What were you arguing about? He paused, then lied with a straight face. We were discussing baby names. I couldn't help laughing softly. Sure you were.